WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, Lomé and Accra, 1 p.m. in Abuja and Porto Novo. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Day one of Newslink's resignation demonstration underway in Togo despite authorities' vow to crack down unauthorized assembly.
What we want is the country's progress, and we simply demand the departure of President Newslink. We want another person to lead the country. Here, Hanupe, the young people are hungry. Yes, we are blocking your way to express our discontent.
Nigeria's Electoral Commission INEC receives applications from more than 100 associations ahead of the 2027 elections. Ghana's suspended Chief Justice Tokono stirs mixed reactions with her public comments on the proceedings regarding her possible removal from office.
Implementing this enterprise of pretending to use Article 146 procedures to remove a Chief Justice through unknown and unlawful means.
That when proceedings are held or being held in camera, you do not rush to the court of public opinion.
My thinking is that when it comes to human rights violations, the courts must be prepared to step in.
And Senegal's Judicial Workers Union extend general strike by 48 hours. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Christopher Aticho with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. This edition of Newslink begins in Togo, where the much-anticipated three-day protest kicked off today this morning. Across the country, citizens have been calling for demonstrations against the backdrop of mounting socio-political tension. This series of protests currently underway was widely mobilized on social media platforms by youth and is expected to continue tomorrow, Friday and Saturday, despite authorities' resistance. The protesters are demanding the immediate resignation of the president of the National Council, Newslink, who has been in power for 20 years. Opposition political groups and civil society have denounced the country's governance, increased rights abuses, and shrinking civic and media space, among others. These demonstrations are taking place despite a warning by the state authority against any unauthorized protest which could disrupt public order. Abdullah Hassan reports.
The protest announced by Togolese influences living abroad began this Thursday. A tour of certain neighborhoods in Lomé reveals a peculiar atmosphere. Shops and businesses are closed, streets have empty or even tentatively opening, listening to the evolving situation. At the capital's main intersections and strategic areas, the presence of security forces is visible. Uniformed police and military personnel are stationed at various locations. At Ikome intersection, Tokoin Protestant College, Dakar Blay Market, Bipakoto intersection, Colombe de la Paz Amin intersection, among others. Some are equipped with batons, shields, riot control cords and weapons. In Hanupe, around 10 a.m., youth barricaded the access road to the market with stones. Some local residents, due to the retaliation, do not want to join the demonstration. A local resident speaks out. He says, "What we want is the country's progress, and we simply demand the departure of President Newslink. We want another person to lead the country. Here, Hanupe, the young people are hungry. Yes, we are blocking your way to express our discontent. Those who are on the road are afraid. Those who remove my fear. And they are aware what you have to eat at lunchtime or in the evening is a problem. don't they see what is happening? For several weeks, Togo has been rocked by a wave of popular protest. Calls for demonstrations, led in particular by activists, bloggers and citizen movements, are demanding greater public freedoms, democracy and better governance. While these demonstrations are banned by the government since 2022, the protesters plan to continue tomorrow, Friday and Saturday.
Abdullahi Hassan with that report, filed in by WADR's correspondent CV Wadr. In Nigeria, at least 110 associations have applied to the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) seeking registration as political parties. INEC's chairperson disclosed this on Wednesday at a press conference in Abuja at the Commission's headquarters. According to Professor Mahmood Yakubu, the requests are being processed in line with INEC's regulations and guidelines. The Electoral Commission disclosure comes days after an opposition coalition known as the All Democratic Alliance ADA, comprising former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and top-shot politicians, announced their application. Imo Edit reports.
Addressing the media at INEC's headquarters, Professor Yakubu said that as of June 23, the Commission had received letters of intent from 110 associations. These associations wish to register as political parties, he said. INEC is tasked with organizing inclusive and peaceful elections in Nigeria at the federal, state and local levels. It has acknowledged all requests received. Professor Yakub urged Nigerians, especially those interested in registering political parties, to consult the Commission's regulations and guidelines for political parties 2022, available on the Commission's website. The Commission has also released a full list of the 110 associations detailing their proposed names, acronyms, addresses, as well as the names of their chairmen and secretaries. Administrative actions guided by INEC's guidelines will eventually determine the number of associations to be validated. In the meantime, political analysts suggest a momentum by these associations to replace the current regime of President Bola Tinubu, accused of corruption, political dictatorship, poor governance and harsh economic policies. Tinubu, at an event in Nasarawa State on Wednesday, said this about the opposition.
Those who have triggered the alley politics and the partition of coalition, suddenly, just don't pay them any attention. Don't give them a home. The hope is here. I'm not geared for what they try to pull on me, alley political campaign.
As a reminder, Nigeria is 2 years away from another election in 2027, but political tension is mounting by the day.
Imo Edit filed the report. Still in Nigeria, the federal government and Brazil are deepening bilateral ties through strategic cooperation to boost agriculture, trade and climate resilience. At the center of this renewed partnership is the $1 billion Green Imperative Program, which President Bola Tinubu describes as a transformative step for the nation's agriculture sector. From Abuja, WADR's Yechenu Sasetu reports.
President Bola Tinubu says the $1 billion Nigeria-Brazil Green Imperative Program will revolutionize agriculture in the country using advanced technology and targeted capacity building. Speaking during a high-level meeting with Brazil's Vice President Geraldo Alckmin at the State House, President Tinubu described the initiative as a flagship project that reflects the evolving relationship between both nations.
The Brazilian industrialization is very progressive. I think we can do so much together in produce, in agriculture, in industrialization. We have to collaborate.
Brazil's Vice President Geraldo Alckmin, who led the delegation, expressed optimism about deepening commercial ties with Nigeria.
There are many business persons interested actually in investing here in Nigeria in a situation that we have what we call economic complementarity in foreign trade between the two countries.
In a separate meeting, the wife of Nigeria's Vice President Nana Shettima emphasized the shared traditions and values that unite both nations.
As usual, Brazil and Nigeria, we have so many things in common in terms of hospitality, in terms of how we love our culture. So truly, I think you're homecoming.
The second session of the Nigeria-Brazil Growth Strategic Dialogue Mechanism opened in Abuja, with over 30 new agreements expected across key sectors such as food security, energy transition, healthcare, defense, and cultural exchange. President Tinubu also noted that Nigeria is gearing up for active participation at the COP30 Climate Conference, scheduled to take place in Belém, Brazil. For WADR, Yechini Sasetu in Abuja.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
And to some issues of workers' welfare, the Justice Workers Union and the National Union of Justice Workers of Senegal are extending their protest for another 2 days, starting today, Thursday, June 26. The decision follows an earlier 72 hours of strike action. This union condemns the government inaction in the face of their demands, including the alignment of all clerks and the aid to hierarchy and the defense of the material and more interest of judicial workers. The administrative department of the various courthouses across the country have been shut throughout the week. To the labor crisis, Senegalese found at the Dakar courthouse by WADR team urged dialogue between the parties. Augustine Colley reports.
At the courthouse, administrative procedures are moving at a slow pace, while others have completely come to a stop following the strike order from the Justice Workers Union. Citizens who had visited to address legal matters denounced the situation. These users and litigants are bearing the brunt of the consequences of the judicial workers' strike. The hope that the government and the unions will find a common ground. Following an initial announcement of a 72-hour strike, the Justice Workers Union has decided to extend its protest by 48 hours starting this Thursday. These union organizations are calling on government authorities to resume serious negotiations with them over their demands.
Augustine Colley filed the report. Still in Senegal court, the body responsible for enforcing ethics and professional conduct in the media has announced the temporary closure of its office. The body says it can no longer fulfill its mission due to a lack of operating budget that should have come from the state. The situation is a continuation of the pressure the press has been under since the change of regime in April 2024. A tense climate has developed between the press and the new authorities who have initiated reforms in the communication sector. Ousmane Dia is the General Secretary of CORD.
Le bureau du CORED s'est résolu à prendre cette regrettable décision parce que
the CORED office has had to make this regrettable decision because it can no longer meet its operational expenses. Permanent staff have patiently cancelled 14 months of salary approvals, which is still too much. And the self-regulatory body still hasn't finalized its budget. 2024 is on hold, and even less so is 2025. While the law provides for an annual allocation to support and develop the press and to the CORED, unfortunately, as I told you, neither in 2024 nor even in 2025 has the CORED received the funds that would have allowed it to operate and pay the salaries of its permanent staff. And based on the considerations, we have decided today to make this regrettable decision, that is to close our offices temporarily, perhaps until the situation resolves. Even the National Press Card Commission is at a standstill today. Press cards have been in demand for several months, but we cannot proceed with a renewal because, quite simply, the Commission cannot work.
On ne peut pas procéder à le renouvellement parce que simplement la Commission ne peut pas travailler faute de moyens.
Ousmane Dia is the Secretary General of CORD. In Ghana, suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu has stirred mixed reactions with a public comment on the proceedings regarding her possible removal from office. Speaking at a press conference on Wednesday, June 25, Justice Tokonu described the process as unfair and accused the investigative body of bias. While some analysts argue that the embattled Chief Justice overstepped by commenting on the process being held in camera, others believe that she is well within her right to speak out. Meanwhile, the government has also rejected the suspended Chief Justice's claim that the hearing venue was deliberately chosen to intimidate her and shield the process from public scrutiny. From Accra, WADR's Nadi Detete reports.
Speaking publicly for the first time since proceedings began for a possible removal, Ghana's suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo rejected allegations leveled against her, calling them baseless and politically motivated. She described the process as a carefully staged attempt to oust her from office.
I cannot share the burden of those involved in designing and implementing this enterprise of pretending to use Article 146 procedures to remove a Chief Justice through unknown and unlawful means.
But government has dismissed her claims of persecution. Minister for Government Communications Felix Kwasi-Fosu insists due process is being followed.
Her leadership of the Chief Justice all but insinuated that there was some political agenda at play to oust her, and that this whole process is a result of sin. Let me place on record, without fear of contradiction, and let me be clear that no such political agenda exists.
Justice Torkornoo's comments have split opinion. Former director of the Ghana School of Law, Kweku Ansah says her decision to speak publicly was in violation of the Constitution.
Here we are, the Chief Justice who knows or ought to know that when proceedings are held or being held in camera, you do not rush to the court of public opinion to share or tell your side of version of the fact. No, it's untenable. I'll roundly condemn her.
But former Deputy Attorney General Alfred Tuah disagrees. He believes the suspended Chief Justice is within her rights to address the media despite the in-camera hearing.
I disagree with Mr. Ansah. The view that whatever happens there cannot go out is why it's pushing her to the media. My thinking is that when it comes to human rights violations, the courts must be prepared to step in, provide us evidence of violations.
For WADR, Nadi Detete, Accra.
You're still listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. We're also live on Facebook at WADR English Service, as well as YouTube at WADR News. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Day one of 4 Nyasingbe's resignation demonstration underway in Togo despite authorities' vow to crack down on unauthorized assembly. Nigeria's Electoral Commission INEC receives applications from more than 100 associations ahead of the 2027 elections. Ghana's suspended Chief Justice Torkornoo stirs mixed reactions with her public comments on the proceedings regarding her possible removal from office. And Senegal's Judicial Workers Union extend general strike by 48 hours. Still ahead in the news, we have the press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Let me take you to Liberia, where civil society organizations in the country have united in opposition to the proposed bill aiming to amend the 2018 Local Government Act, LGA. The organization expressed concerns that the amendment, especially those targeting provisions related to the county councils, threaten the process made towards decentralization and local empowerment. The current LGA allows county councils composed of representatives from women, youth, persons with disabilities, chiefs and civil society to approve developmental plans and budgets crucial for fostering inclusive governance. Supporters of the amendment argue that this power hinders legislative oversight, but critics contend that such change could centralize control, undermine transparency and weaken grassroots participation. Anderson Miami is the Executive Director for the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia Central.
The bill has since been forwarded to the House's committees on good governance, ways, means and finance, internal affairs, and judiciary for review. While we acknowledge some shortcomings of some members of the county councils, including lack of adequate capacity to thoroughly query different budget line items, we argue that reinstating the legislative caucus in playing controlling roles in local development affairs cannot be a viable alternative for 3 reasons. 1, the legislature is not excluded from local government affairs, but the legislative caucus is properly excluded. Proponents of the proposal to amend the law argue that the powers of the county council interfere with legislative oversight powers and usurp the power of the legislature to approve budgets for the county. We strongly disagree because all monies are pushed by the county councils to development projects meet legislative approval. Allocations to counties, including county social development funds, are contained in the national budgets approved by the legislature. The budget, as approved by the legislature, also contains specific policy statements on revenue sharing formulas with the county.
Anderson Miame is the Executive Director of the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia.
This is the Newspaper Review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the Newspaper Review.
The Newspaper Review.
Let's join Nadi Detete from Accra for the press review.
Greetings. Welcome to the newspaper review segment. We'll start off with the Daily Graphic newspaper front page. Resignation not an option, suspended Chief Justice says, and President followed Constitution. There's no political agenda. That's according to government spokesperson in response to the Chief Justice's claims and press conference. Other stories on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper: controversial SML contract, government picks up 8 and 5 former GRA gurus included. That's it for the Daily Graphic newspaper. Now to the Ghanaian Times newspaper front page. Niadama Lache II urges calm in Gamashi. Nita Ekotru prays Supreme Court to quash High Court ruling. And government disburses 8.9 million cedis arrears owed special schools. Final story here on the front page of the Ghanaian Times newspaper: President Mahama in Belgium for Global Health Summit. Now to the Daily Guide newspaper. I will not resign over dark and lawful in-camera probe. Suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu says. Sophia Kufu queries Talo license extension, and 2 arrested over Dampong headmaster murder. Finally, Kufuor slams religious politics. That's it for the Daily Guide newspaper. Now to the Daily Post front page. Defense Minister Dr. Omani Boama warns public of fake Facebook account, urges vigilance during GAF recruitment. Other stories here: government rejects claims of political agenda against suspended Chief Justice Tokonu. Now to the Chronicle newspaper. Zoom Lion lands in Burkina Faso as Africa expansion agenda continues. Electricity tariffs hit the roof despite cedi appreciation. My removal process is politically motivated, suspended Chief Justice says. That's it for the Chronicle newspaper. That's it for the newspaper review segment. It's back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much, Nadi Detete, for the press review.
Politics,
analyses on major news,
social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest this afternoon takes us to Ghana, where the suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu has stirred mixed reactions with a public comment on the proceedings regarding her possible removal from office. Our guest is a former director of the Ghana School of Law, Kweku Asari, and he has been reacting to the press briefing by the Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu.
Her allegations of violations of fundamental human rights were credible as they sound and may be. The court of public opinion is not a venue for her to ventilate such infraction. The appropriate venue for her leadership to have made those submissions is the committee, set up pursuant to Article 146, of the Constitution. So if she has any frustrations, she has any worrying concerns, the court of, public opinion is not even the last resort. It doesn't exist. So she has to go back, to the committee and make, the strongest of submissions before them, which will be incorporated into their final, their final report. And then we all, can be beneficiaries and consumers of the report, and all that she has to say will let you know. What he did yesterday, was inappropriate. It appears that the lady Chief Justice, is running amok because she has, no judicial counsel to lean on. She has to lean on, an entity's shoulder, and she can't find one. That is why she did what she did yesterday. She did our reprimand the Judicial Council for allowing her leadership to run amok. It is not good for the image of the country.
But what has the Judicial Council got to do with this? Is it not a personal decision she took to address the press?
The Judicial Council has been established, and among its functions, is the function of counseling the Chief Justice to behave, on how to behave on the bench when, the need to draw attention to it, and how, to behave in public and what to do and what not to do. It is the job of the Judicial Council, and I don't want to be told that she hasn't approached the Judicial Council. She need not approach the Judicial Council. It is for the Judicial Council, to realize that what is going on is in the public interest.
Another thing she talked about, which has dominated the headlines, is the location where the committee sittings are being held. She talked about a dark linkage to the killing of her uncle and guardian who was abducted whilst she was in the house as well. And she feels that it was deliberately chosen to intimidate her psychologically. What do you say to that?
I don't know about, she has voiced them, but my first reaction is that the venue is in Ghana, and under Ghanaian law, such hearings, are to take place at designated, venues of fora. And if the Osu Castle, has such nostalgic feelings for people, she must bring this to the attention of the committee and not, to the attention of the general public. Trying as it were, to draw the sympathy, or the but our sympathy cannot, help her. The only thing that can help her is to participate, in the probe to completion. So I find it very hard, what went on yesterday. How can the general public help her? She's so frustrated. She feels abandoned. She feels betrayed. And all that. But I'm sorry. Hard cases do not make bad law at all. And therefore, being the head of the judiciary, she knows. Now, for the first time, we have a Chief Justice on her own showing an admission, telling the whole nation that our justice delivery system is broken and needs to be fixed. It is not the general public, to be told this. As for the general public, they've known this for many years, and the general public has rather, been at the receiving end of the judiciary. If members of the general public draw attention, to corruption and corrupt practices going on within the judiciary, we say that it is only a mere perception. So if the whole Chief Justice now, tells Ghanaians bluntly that she hasn't, taken bribe before, it is an admission that some other judges do take bribe.
Kweku Asari is the former director of the Ghana School of Law. And in sports this afternoon, Ghana Premier League side Asante Kotoko has announced the acceptance of an invitation to play in the 2025 Toyota Cup. The Porcupine Warriors will face South African side Kaizer Chiefs in this year's event, which is scheduled for next month. The game, according to the club, will form part of their preparation for next season's CAF Confederation Cup, which they have secured a slot after winning the MTN FA Cup. The game is set for Monday, July 28, 2025 in South Africa. And that ends it for sports. And with that, we've come to the end of today's edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Fali Luso and Umu Danyogo for the technical assistance. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook at WADR English Service. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is WADR's flagship environment program, Enviroscope with Abdullah Hassan. I am Christopher Ticho. Good afternoon and enjoy the rest of our broadcast.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kaigama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Gulf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you.